Great, thank you everyone. My name is Doug Boxer. I'm a California lawyer here. I want to thank you all for being here today to see this incredibly important press conference where you will see never seen before digital analysis of the start of the Eaton fire. So this is critically important for you to be here. Again, my name is Doug Boxer. I'm a lawyer from California. I'm so proud to be part of our group of LA Fire Justice. We're a coalition of lawyers and advocates, fire causation experts, insurance specialists, and community representatives, all united by one goal. It's to seek justice for the victims of the Eaton fire. This is a utility-sparked fire, and it was preventable, which you will learn later today. Sadly, I, along with the other members of our team, are in another community that's been devastated by a utility-caused wildfire. Over the past 8 years, our team has represented close to 20,000 fire victims across California and even over to Lahaina, where a utility-sparked wildfire basically took that entire town off the map and killed 103 people. Again, a preventable wildfire. I'm also part of the oversight committee that's paying out the $13.5 billion from Pacific Gas and Electric up in Northern California. So one of the things that we try to accomplish through this litigation is to get justice for the people who've been harmed. But I also want to make sure you understand that we want these folks to have their voices heard loud and clear. And that message is, when a utility fails to invest in its infrastructure, fails to control the vegetation, or ignores very clear warnings, weather warnings, about the dangerous situations to come, the results are devastating and deadly. Unfortunately, the folks of the San Gabriel Valley are beginning to realize just how terrible that is. And perhaps only saving grace, or one of the saving graces, is that our judicial system allows for these people to hold those who harm them to account. They can and must seek justice. And to do that, time and time again in my beautiful state of California, where communities have been ravaged by these fires, I've turned to Mikal Watts. Mikal Watts is a world-class trial lawyer. I turned to him because he's one of the best. He's one of the best at holding utilities accountable and seeking justice for those communities. But before I turn it over to Mikal, I also want to acknowledge the presence of Erin Brockovich, who really needs no introduction. I met Erin in the early 2000s when she joined with my mother, former Senator Barbara Boxer, on some toxic water issues that were facing communities across America. You will not find a more tenacious fighter for communities who have been harmed by the greed of corporate entities. So to the San Gabriel Valley, I want to tell you all, Erin is here. She will speak up and she will give you voice. Now, I want to turn it over to Mikal Watts. And I want to just give you one example of why he is the person I decide to go to battle with when we have a utility-sparked wildfire. And it comes from the 2017 wildfires up in Northern California. You might recall the Tubbs fire burned significant portions of Sonoma and Napa counties. At that time, PG&E, just like Southern California Edison, is throwing out all sorts of wild, fantastical versions of how the fire started. Mikal didn't buy it. He got to work using cutting-edge technology, just like today, and his skill as a trial lawyer, was able to uncover evidence that resulted in the people who were burned out by the Tubbs fire receiving an additional $5 billion through our global settlement up there. So I'd now like to turn it over to Mikal Watts. He's going to describe to you how the Eaton fire started and its devastating consequences. Mikal.
Good afternoon. I'm Mikal Watts. I want to talk to you about what we've learned and can prove how this fire started. Yeah, sorry. Thank. I actually pick a jury in a major environmental tort case in Colorado on Friday, so we wanted to get the information out, what we've learned. And let me just kind of take you through liability issues and damages issues. On liability, we've studied the Hughes fire, the Eaton fire, and the Palisades fire. I'm just going to talk about the Eaton fire today, but we've got fire investigators up on the hills doing this kind of work in all three of them. But today, we're focused with respect to Eaton. You generally know where the area of origin is. This isn't that hard to determine. Basically, because of Elon Musk and satellites, we've got sky views of where the smoke is going, and you go to the edge of the smoke, and you've got a general idea where it started in high winds. We now, as of yesterday, burned down about 14,000 acres. About 10,591 structures have been incinerated or partially burned. And fortunately, because of rains, it looks like it's almost put out. So let's talk about the Eaton fire specifically. There's been a lot of information put out. Doug and I came on the 13th, tried to get in, and they did a pretty good job of keeping everybody out, but it gave us a kind of a general orientation about where to send the experts. And what we've learned is this. Number one, the area of origin for the Eaton fire is the base of what we're calling transmission line number 3. And how do we know that? Well, what we know is that CAL FIRE tells us where generally the area of origin is. It's on a line, a transmission line between the Goodrich substation and the Gould substation. And we know generally where it is, so we can send drones up there to start analyzing and photographing the equipment so that we can reach conclusions about why this happened and where it began. And so the area of origin is between those two substations. We know that. We know that there were faults detected between those two substations at 6:10 and 59 seconds and 6:11 and 02 seconds at both the Goodrich and the Gould substations. Southern California Edison's story continues to evolve. Originally, our equipment's not involved. We had no faults. They filed something with the Public Utilities Commission earlier today where they finally admit they had a fault at 6:11. And this is the letter that they filed today. And the bottom line is they say preliminary analysis shows that a fault was detected at approximately 6:11 p.m. on the Eagle Rock Gould 220 kilovolt line. They are correct. There were, in fact, two faults about 3 seconds apart, which is very consistent with what the eyewitnesses describe of two brilliant lights, one right after the other. Now, we've done a lot of work. Experts that we've hired that are actually outside have been digging up and down this mountain forever. And there are 3 different transmission lines along this route. I call them 1, 2, and 3. Keep an eye on transmission line number 3. And here you see it again. It's shorter than the other 2. It is the origin of the Eaton fire. So when Southern California Edison puts out statements that we don't think our equipment was involved, they're just flat out wrong, and I'm going to demonstrate that to you. You have to believe your lying eyes. It's not in dispute.
Surveillance video and witness accounts are raising questions about whether the Eaton fire may have been started by a downed power line.
Not to play it again, but they identified 5 or 6 witnesses that then our experts were able to go out and talk to. Max Boleyn, who testifies about a flash of light followed by a small blaze at the tower's base. This is a gentleman named Brandon Ford who said his power flickered about 6:10. That's what he told ABC News. Harry Kertinian says his mother told him that she saw the power lines sparking. So the eyewitness accounts is weaving in perfectly with the fault data, and you're about to see with the videos. Now, one of my colleagues held a press conference to announce this video this morning, but let me tell you what we've done with it. There is a videotation, a video at 1633 North Pasadena. My friend Jerry Singleton provided it, and you saw this morning. It's the earliest video that we have of the start of the fire. You can see it right here. That's not the news. The news is what the digital reconstruction shows and demonstrates about what caused that. And we've had an outfit by the name of Aperture out here digitally reconstructing this, and you can see the orientation of the Arco gas line and the fire origin area. That video points towards the fire origin area. There's a tree in the way, so we've had to deal with that. And you'll see that subject tree. What these two experts did is they went to the location of the video that you saw and, in effect, during the day, performed a process known as photogrammetry. And that is where you take fixed objects that are not going to move and you line them up perfectly so that you can digitally reorient exactly what the video is seeing. You'll be able to go in this video and see exactly what happened. And a few minutes later, neighbor calls to say there was a fire under the power line. And then there's a series of videos by Adrian Tamaran from 2297 Sinclair, and they all show a video that starts in tower number 3, progresses down the hill to tower number 1, 2, and then down into where we're at. What they've done is they have reconstructed, using the digital reconstruction, what we're seeing here. This digital reconstruction starts at 614. You can see it's under power line number 3. 618, it's progressing towards number 2. 619, it's progressing, and you can see it's starting to move down the hill. And we'll be able to supply this information to you, but the progression of these 4 videos over time is very important because you can see in about 5 minutes where the fire started under transmission line number 3 and where it migrated, and it's indisputable. The video that I couldn't play for you we'll show here in a second that literally, as a matter of digital reconstruction, we're able to show that it starts at
Hey, babe,
start.
I need you to come out here right now.
Now, Jeffrey Koo is here.
What?
You've seen this. His video is important from the standpoint of about 619 to 621.
no.
And you can see the fire progressing. And then we've got another video from Pedro Riojas at 621. And we just put all these together, and we're able to, in effect, reconstruct where we are. Yeah, pull this up, and then we'll show the 2 reconstructions off my computer. All right, so it converts from the night image that you saw this morning, and we're able to, in effect, line it up with the fixed objects during the day through this process known as photogrammetry. It matches the image pixels so that we know the dimensions of where this was, and it doesn't move. We can then take it up the hill. And what you'll see is a matter of digital reconstruction, and this is just math. Nothing's moving around. We know where images are, and we know where the fire is seen in the video that you were shown this morning. There are the 3 transmission lines. Transmission line number or transmission tower number 3 is right here, and then in effect we can superimpose the imagery of where the fire started, and we know exactly where on the transmission tower the fire is seen by, in effect, using the pixel reconstruction. That is a street lamp. It's not the fire, but you're about to see the fire. Down and to the left of the street lamp, there it is, the first flash. And look where it is relative to the towers. Eventually, that arcing is consistent with what the witnesses saw, and then it's going to catch grass below the transmission line on fire, and you're going to see a second flash 3 seconds later at the same location. 6:10:59 and 6:11:02, and then as we progress, it's going to move on down the mountain. So the Arco Station video demonstrates, as a matter of just orientation, where this fire began,
and how it began. The fire is visible when it's burning down at the bottom of the transmission pole. That is classic sparks hitting combustible material on the ground, catching the dried out grasses, weeds, trees, whatever, and then the fire will move down the hill. Okay? So that's the first one that I wanted to show you. The second one, and we'll run right here. Now this is where the videos from 614 to 618 are shot. So because we've used LiDAR and three-dimensional analysis, we know where everything is. And then we can superimpose the video that you've seen, 614, 618, 619, with where we know the transmission poles and the lines are. And it will illustrate that it started with Southern California Edison's transmission pole number 3 up at the top. It sparked, that's what 2 different witnesses saw, hit combustible material at the base, and now you're seeing the location of the fire in the 614 video. There is no fire on the first 2 transmission towers at this time, and there is certainly no fire from a campsite 300 yards down the hill, which is just nonsense being peddled by lawyers. So this video conclusively shows that this fire started up at the top of transmission pole number 3, fell to the ground, ignited grasses and the like. There are all these videos. I'm not going to go through them again. You've seen them. But this is an important part of fire reconstruction. Our colleagues in the media have done a good job finding some of these videos. We've had investigators out talking to these witnesses. Jeffrey Koo is here, his video, some of the others that have provided the videos. And what that allows us to do is to project visual images from all the different angles and reconstruct the fire as a matter of photogrammetry. And so this is conclusive proof as to where the fire started and where it spread. And so we can take all those videos, stabilize them, take the photographs that are taken at 619, take Jeffrey Koo's videos, I won't play that again, take Pedro Riojas's, and we're just going and reconstructing the fire second by second, minute by minute, as it begins to head down the hill to where it incinerated this entire town. Now, if we take all of those fires and use photogrammetry to line up all of the fixed objects, which is what we've done, we can take the cell phone numbers and project what time they were taken. We can take the photographs that you all in the media have been successful in collecting, and we can see the fire spread. And that's what we're seeing. We can also take those videos.
Oh my God.
And somebody like Jeffrey Koo shows up and gives us the actual video with the hard evidence on the cell phone. Your cell phone says where you were, longitude, latitude, what time, and so we're able to, in effect, take this, and this is evidence. So anybody out there with videos needs to get them in so that the community can know exactly what happened. And then we digitally show the fire progression based on these stabilized videos. And so we merge all of these different videos, and you see the fire progression from transmission line number 3, and it will play back, and eventually it's transmission line 3 and 2 as it moves down the hill, and then eventually the entire conflagration is going to involve all 3 of them, although clearly transmission line number 1 and 2 are not causative. A fault on transmission line number 3 is the location of the ignition of the Eaton fire. This is my 22nd wildfire. I've represented 21,000 fire survivors in 6 different states. This is the clearest evidence that I've ever seen of utilities equipment being the start of a fire. So that's conclusion of fact number 1. The area of ignition, the ignition origin, is the base of transmission line number 3, full stop. It's indisputable. That has consequences for Southern California Edison under California's inverse condemnation law. But they are putting forward theories that I think politely we could say are misleading the public. First, they say that transmission line wasn't even energized. It wasn't our equipment. We're able to demonstrate through photography that our experts took and other experts altogether along this line. And what you'll see at the area of origin when you have a fault, which was identified, is the electricity will spread both ends. So you should see evidence of arcing on both sides, and we do. And so that line was energized. Let's start over near the East Mesa. The termination is what we would call it in effect of tower number 3. If you look at this particular transmission pole, you're going to start seeing good digital evidence in terms of high quality photographs that the experts have taken of arcing. And so what happens is you have a fault, that electricity runs through the line, and eventually it's going to stop at the termination. And this is all evidence of arcing that resulted from that fault. And that's where it was. That also happens to be identical to where the reconstruction of the ARCO station video shows the fire started. We can see other evidence of arcing at the same location where the video shows the fire started. This doesn't happen by accident, and this evidence does not exist on tower number 2 and tower number 1. And we see where it is. So we know where the arcing was. We know where the video shows the fire began. And then we go to the other end of the line because there should be some evidence of arcing on that end of the line as well. And so we go to the West Mesa termination close to, in effect, the Gould substation. And here's the photographs that the various experts who are out there have taken of the Gould substation. Here we have the termination point, and we can look at that particular transmission pole and see evidence of arcing as well along the same line. This is the result of arcing. That is the result of a surge in power because of arcing. And you can see where it is. It's along the same line on the other end where the video shows the fire began. We see arcing on both sides along the same line, which is very clear evidence that they had a surge. And that's what led to the sparks that led to this fire. All right, so what's the consequence of that? Conclusion of fact number 2 is that transmission line number 3 somehow got energized. In Southern California, Edison's utility equipment was the source of the fire. How it was energized requires the production, and you've seen the hearings that are happening, something called SCADA data and other data that they're not exactly putting out to the press. They're showing this to us. It's attorney's eyes only. It's highly confidential. Why that is, I don't know. But the bottom line is it doesn't matter. Under California's inverse condemnation law, they are responsible for all the damage caused by the Eaton fire because their equipment started the fire. And there's cases going back 30, 40 years that talk about they have strict liability. They're strictly liable if their equipment started the fire. Now, our negligence investigation, and perhaps gross negligence investigation, requires the information on the SCADA data that has not been produced in full. We're working on that. That will continue. But the bottom line is I would like to know where along the lines the faults happen so we can then get into their maintenance records about why the fault was allowed to happen at the location where it happened. We've got a lot of red flags. So there's complaining, and this is lawyer stuff. People are complaining haven't complied. They failed to produce diagrams. We'll get through all of that. And there's good work going on down at the courthouse trying to get that done. But as we look at the files on this particular transmission route, there's a decade of mismanagement with respect to these high-risk transmission lines. We think that there was a notice to proceed from the California Public Utilities Commission back in 2013 to go ahead and take down the entire transmission line and upgrade it. But we know it wasn't done. There's the notice in October of 2013. There's the notice to proceed request, and it was approved by the California Public Utilities Commission. Now, they may say it's a different part of the line. We'll get through all that in discovery. But more recently, there was an audit in March of 2024 that revealed violations of the Public Utility Commission's orders. And we can see the results of that audit just less than 1 year ago, talking about the need to prevent these violations. It's largely a failure to inspect, which is critical in terms of mitigating what could happen out there. And just as recently as October of 2024, there's a decision by the Office of Infrastructure Safety directing Southern California Edison to step up its game with respect to the inspection of these transmission lines. And so we'll have to see whether these 3 documents, and there are a bunch more, are indicative of a systemic problem that led to what we were dealing with on January 7th. But it certainly, provides smoke of something wrong. So let me address real quick this canard that Southern California Edison has put out that, we found evidence of a campfire in the immediate vicinity where this fire started. It's nonsense. Here's Los Angeles Times article. Salvador Hernandez has done a great job. Ivan Penn's done a great job. I really commend the press. You guys have been all over this, and you've done a good job. But the bottom line is Edison is saying its equipment did not cause this fire, and they're just flat out wrong. They sent us this letter saying, look, there's a campfire. We've collected evidence. Here's the pictures. You only need the 3rd picture to start realizing and applying your common sense that when Santa Ana winds are raining down the hill in the opposite direction of where the campfire was, it's not going to climb the hill. It's not causative. It's 1,400 feet away with a drop of elevation of 300 feet in elevation. It just doesn't have anything to do with why you see what you see in those videos at transmission line number 3. They gave us the picture of the gentleman's risk, the longitude, latitude. You can see the distance where the campfire was versus the start of the Eaton fire that we've captured on video and that we've digitally reconstructed. It's not only 300 yards away, it's the wrong direction from the standpoint of wind causation. And so the human encampment theory just has no merit. It's another one of these theories. We didn't have any faults in the line. That was what they said 3 weeks ago, and now they're admitting they had a fault at 611. The concept that this human encampment played any role in the start of this fire is just not true. And our experts have been out there. We've digitally reconstructed all of this. We'll have the wind records. They're just not going to be able to show that it had anything to do with this. This is what, in my business, we call a red herring. And you can see just generally the grade is almost 50% part of this. The wind's going down in the opposite direction and the like. So the Eaton fire was not caused by human encampment. Wrong location, wrong elevation, wrong wind direction, and just not backed up by the science. So people ask me a lot, how much is this going to cost? There are people far more qualified than me, but I've assessed a lot of the different fires and how many acres and how many structures and the like. And you could say this is going to be an $8 to $10 billion fire. You could say this is going to be a $10.5 to $14.5 billion fire. There are people in New York that run hedge funds that think it's going to be closer to $20 billion. Morgan Stanley actually put out something early, said $15 to $30 billion. I hope it's not that high. But we have work to do. There's an entire community that was leveled by Southern California Edison's equipment. It did not have to happen. It should not have happened. It's a repeat offender from the standpoint of Thomas, Woolsey, Bobcat, and now this. This is a repetitive situation. It's a little bit like Bill Murray in the movie Groundhog Day. You get up at 6:02 and you do the same thing over and over and over again. What we're seeing repetitively is utility organizations that fail to improve the grid, fail to inspect the grid. The grid has a failure that provides the spark which burns down entire towns. So that's the information that we have with respect to the cause of the Eaton fire. We've got a lot of investigation on 2 or 3 of the other fires that we won't talk about yet. but we are actively looking at those as well. One other thing, and not being critical, but I just have a general strategy. I don't like to do client town halls until everything's settled down for 30 days. So our first one will be 30 days after the fire. We did that in Maui. It felt like good taste. But what I did want to do is I wanted to be able to tell the people of this town what caused their fire. And I think due to the good work that's done by a lot of these experts, we now know that answer. So.
I'm upset, as we all are, and I'm just sickened that we're here again. So I feel super frustrated, and I'm glad Mikal and Doug are here and had the time for all of you to come and kind of show you what's happening and how misinformation does get out there, but what's really going on. And I'm frustrated because, as Mikal said, as Doug said, this didn't have to happen. And working with this team all the way back in the Tubbs fire to the Paradise fire, I was going to say Palisades, to the Paradise fire, all the way up to here in the fires that we've been through. This, and we've been over it and over it and over it and over it. This is utilities' antiquated, failed infrastructure. Everybody in California, including the utilities, you know about the Santa Ana winds. You know about the fire conditions. You know where the problems are on your line. And you know that you're out there to get your infrastructure up to stuff. And every single year, they're late, they fail, they don't do it. So I'm so frustrated, I'm so sad, I'm so upset for the people of Pasadena, for the people of Pacific Palisades, for the people of Malibu, for actually, frankly, every single one of us in California, that this continues to go on. I live out in Agora Hills. I was affected by the Woosley fire, the Thomas fire. I'm frustrated that there was a lack of preparedness in some regards for what happened when we should know better, and where our communication systems failed. So, first of all, I'm truly, I don't know if you've all been out to Altadena or down to Malibu or Palisades, but it is mind-boggling. I spent the first day out there crying. They're going through a lot. We're here to support them. They're going to need time. This community and these communities need time. I've worked with them too many times to heal and to recover. But they need support from us and to listen and just know that we're there. But you know, people always talk about here in California, everybody won't come back. They will come back. We all live here for a reason, and I think that this feels so personal to so many of us. So there's problems here with utilities. There's other issues that we have to look at. But I will say that one thing, working with this team, that I've appreciated the most is getting in there and looking at where the failures are, how we're going to change. And as I said earlier, we're not going to stop the Santa Ana winds. But there are more things that we can be doing, that we should be doing, that makes this state and our communities have a defensible position so we don't continue to have these type of fires.
Thank you all for being here. Incredibly important that this information get out. Mikal, thank you for your hard work. Erin, thank you for being here. We'll be available. Thank you so much, folks.